Welcome to the April 13th edition of the PFF Forecast. We are going to talk AFC West here. Great division and great timing for that because Derek Carr got a nice little extension, still kind of being reported on. In fact, I found out about the Derek Carr extension like 25 minutes ago, thanks to Eric. So it'll be a live kind of reaction to that. I also have a story about how I am getting very old that I think Eric will enjoy. Let's rock. So, Eric, I pulled my back.
Wow.
And yes, but here's the bad thing about that. I pulled my back, like basically like stretching. Like I was just like walking around and I was like, oh, I'll I'll do a little twist side to side, just loosen things up. Might work out in, 20 minutes. Just fucking pulled my back. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute disaster. Tried and power through, not particularly good at it. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty old right now.
Man, that's rough. I did that a month ago when I was on my way to my friend's dad's funeral, and when I was just putting on my shoes. But that happens, and you're gonna have to live through it. You're gonna have to wrestle with your mortality.
Grit, determination. That'll make it happen. How was we obviously last time we talked, you were like on the other side of the world. How was your travel experience? You had like a 24-hour travel journey. Do you have any good stories from that?
Not really. I can't sleep. So Sunday, right before we did the show, I had a 4 or 5 hour rest, and then I had dinner with my parents, and I had the podcast with you, and then I had to get up at about 3:30 a.m. Budapest time, which was 9:30 or so. 9:30 Eastern to get up and get my taxi. My flight was at midnight Eastern. I got back at 11 p.m. The following day, so it was a pretty long trek, but it was basically like 1 7-hour flight and 2 4-hour layovers. And at least in the Paris one, I found like this big floppy couch thing that I slept on for 4 hours because I can't really sleep on the airplane. So that was pretty like, and then on the flight there, I did some work and I coded a little bit, and then I watched movies, and I forgot how good Step Brothers was. I forgot how good Hall Pass was. Weirdly, Jason Sudeikis doesn't really miss, so that was fairly enjoyable. But yeah, it was a very interesting travel, and I'm glad to be back. I think my parents are leaving today, so we'll see if they make it back to the States in one piece.
Having heard some stories about you traveling with your parents, I think it was a good thing that you guys split this one up. That was probably a solid move.
Yeah, they had a lot of fun at the wedding. I think it was the three of us were the only people from the U.S. that went. They enjoyed it. My parents have friends from Hungary, so it was fun, and ultimately, I'm glad my sister enjoyed herself. I really liked meeting her husband, so yeah, it was fun. And the NFL took some time off, at least for a little bit, although this morning the Derek Carr signing certainly revved up the engines a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about a little Derek Carr. Let's talk about that at the outset here, and let's do the AFC West, and let's start with the Raiders, because obviously there's a lot of things that are interesting about them, regardless of the Derek Carr restructuring, and obviously Devontae Adams coming over. and we've talked about that a little bit, but as you look at the current odds to win the the division of death, I'm not sure the World Cup has a group of death, but the NFL has a division of death, and that is the AFC West. Chiefs plus 160, Los Angeles Chargers plus 250, Denver Broncos plus 250, Raiders plus 600. So as you look at the Raiders, do you think like, okay, these moves all make sense? Or is it we are kind of on a fool's errand? This will get us some publicity and maybe a little bit of love here at the outset, but really keeping Derek Carr around and then bringing in Devontae Adams is just going to help us be a better fourth place team.
I think, if the deal would have been like, look, that there's plenty of plenty of folks who think that these things are inevitable, that you need to play in this game, and there's like this human aspect to it. Like, if this was a fully guaranteed deal, this would have been one of the dumber things I think a team has done all offseason. Derek Carr in 2016 was worth 3.34 wins above replacement. Last year in 18 games, he was worth 3.13. So his WAR has gone up every year for the last 4 years. I think John Gruden, started there in 18. Like, I think like Gruden's offense actually got a decent amount out of Derek Carr. So, you come back, Josh McDaniels is now the coach. You haven't hit on a draft pick in God knows how long. Other than, Max Crosby's fine. But I think that the problem here is that, 3.13 WAR, right? You're looking at kind of a fair market value of about $31 million. So at $19 million, right, with that long-term deal, he was a value to this team. And he has been a value to this team for 3 years now. At $40 million, and if you prorate it out, even like, let's say 35, you're working at a deficit again. And, with quarterbacks like Carr, like Tannehill, like Cousins, guys like that, who don't elevate the play of those around them, you can't be working at a deficit with your quarterback on a money thing. Now, if the deal is as reported, which is like 1 year, $25 million, Raiders have a chance to get out from under it in 2023, then I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, then you're talking about having a $6 million, if he plays up to what he played in last year, which is again, or let's say he takes the average of the last 2 years and he's at 2.9 WAR or something like that, then you're looking at a surplus value at the QB position, and you can do that. So I think, the second report here makes a lot of sense. It also throws cold water at this idea that these teams are required to play in this veteran quarterback contract game. Like you don't have to sign Kirk Cousins. You don't have to sign Ryan Tannehill. You don't have to sign Derek Carr to these long-term deals. You can, sort of like, these are the positions where it would, like, going year to year is actually probably fine given the way that things go. So I like the move for the Raiders now that I know what the sort of structure is. If it would have been guaranteed or close to guaranteed or backloaded and things like that, it would have been pretty horrendous, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I'm shocked. First off, I'm stunned that you managed to bring it back to Kirk Cousins. I would have never thought that.
It's the same problem, though, right?
Yeah, no, it is. And so look, I was looking at two of the smarter contract people that are out there, Jason from Over the Cap and our very own Brad Spielberger on Twitter, and basically what they're saying, and this is what Brad tweeted, is interesting approach at quarterback with Kirk Cousins and now Derek Carr. The Vikings and the Raiders effectively apply a preemptive franchise tag, maintain control, but really just buy themselves time. The player gets a no trade clause in return to dictate a potential future move. And like, that makes sense to me, because you're kind of giving this a shot, right? And I guess the question would be, if it doesn't work out, how do you untangle the mess? Which, would mean, okay, it doesn't work out. So you're presumably trying to trade Derek Carr. You're obviously not going to be able to do anything with Devontae Adams, at the moment. And that one is a challenging one, but, you at least would be able to re-rack with a quarterback, like a young quarterback, in next year's draft, or some, maybe the year after, if you tank and acquire pieces. But that leads me to this question. So Derek Carr has a no trade clause. Interesting. Deshaun Watson had a no trade clause. Now, Deshaun Watson, for all the garbage human stuff that he does off the field, probably had a higher value than Derek Carr because of his age and his ability on the field. I am wondering, does having a no trade clause associated with Derek Carr, does that cost you a lot of value? And is that like worthwhile? Like, should you not just suck it up and actually go year to year? Or is there enough value in having a player like Derek Carr with a no trade clause if you want to unload him? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know, and so I must have misunderstood. So because the way the Cousins deal is a $31.4 million cap hit in 2022. If they were to cut him right now, it would be an $80 million dead money charge. If they cut 2023, his cap number is $36.25 million, 16.1% of the cap. Dead money cut charge is $48,750,000, and then he has two void years, one 2024 and one 2025, and basically you're splitting up $12.5 million, so 5% of the salary cap, basically on void years that you have to pay out. And that with a no trade clause. So the issue becomes like, if that's the thing, like you're really not getting out from under the guy, right? Like Minnesota doesn't, I mean, they can trade Kirk to a different team if he wants that trade, but like that really reduces their ability to do so, right? And if Carr has that sort of structure as well, then I'm less bullish on the deal because, essentially, I mean, you are like the issue becomes though apply the franchise tag, and I've come to appreciate this a little bit more. The franchise tag is clean, right? Like you can get out from under it. You can sort of, it doesn't hamper future. Like everybody's going to say, well, like let's say, Derek Carr's deal is only 25 million cap hit. Let's assume that's true this year. It's like, but that doesn't matter in the sense that like, if he has guaranteed money next year, that's still going to influence what you can do this year, right? And again, like this is the one contract that's on over the cap, so I'm going to talk about it, not because, whatever, but like the $36.25 million that Kirk Cousins costs in 2023 affects what the Vikings can do today, right? And so this is the part of the salary cap is, it's sort of like people who at least acknowledge the salary cap's real, but don't really understand it, or saying, oh, he's cheap this year. It's like, yeah, but like the future years like that's like saying, well, look, my car payment's only $50, It's like, yeah, but you took out a 30-year car loan.
Yeah.
Right? So that's gonna, like, it should be affecting what you do the rest of your life. Or I think it's even more interesting when like you sort of say like you buy a new house and you don't have to pay a mortgage for the first 2 months, let's say. You're like, oh, well, my house is free. Like, that's ridiculous, right? Like, that's where I get nervous about these things where they push this money forward because, that $12.5 million cap hit, let's say in 2024, like that matters, right? That's 5% of your salary cap, know? And that's just for the right. And this is where it comes back to Carr. Just for the right to be an okay team this year. Like, I've come to appreciate a little bit what the Rams do, right? Because when they push the thing towards the middle, they were the favorite in the NFC West when this happened. They were one of the favorites in the NFL. They were, there was, and when the Chiefs did it in 2020, when they, remember there was a time when the Chiefs had like $68,000 under the cap for like a month straight while they were trying to renegotiate Sammy Watkins' deal. It's like, yes, but they're the Super Bowl favorites, right? So there's a point to all of this. The Raiders' win total right now in DraftKings is 8.5. Their division title odds is 6-1. They're 6-1 to win the division. What are they doing this for? Like, this doesn't, like, I think that the rationale is, and I don't agree with it at all, is you were one pass away from beating a Bengals team that made the Super Bowl. And everybody believes they're 1 degree of separation away from the Super Bowl. And it's just like, no, like this Super Bowl was won by a 4th seed
Hmm.
against another 4th seed after they went to the conference title game against the 6th seed. This was a
Yeah.
random ass year. Do you think in an AFC that includes Buffalo with Josh Allen, Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, the Chargers with Justin Herbert, the Broncos with Russell Wilson, the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick and Mac Jones, the Miami Dolphins with Tyreek Hill, Tua Tagovailoa, Mike McDaniel, and like probably a little bit better trajectory than you, um, the Titans, who were the freaking 1 seed last year, and Matt Ryan going in. Do you think you really have a chance in this conference?
Well, and so
If
here's the thing that's funny, because like I would I'll push back a little bit on the like one throw away from going to the Super Bowl, and that's actually a really good way of looking at it. But maybe it's not even that deep. Maybe it's literally like we moved to Las Vegas. We have this stadium. If we aren't a competitive team, then the only people coming to our games are going to be out of towners. They're going to pack our stadium. And we refuse to have that happen to us like this year. What's interesting about that is if you just look past the regular season. So let's say, like, what's a good outcome for them? A good outcome for them would honestly, if they just make the playoffs and their win totals at 8.5, a good outcome would be 9 wins, Eric. They win 9 games. They're a wild card team. They're playing on the road in the playoffs. They lose again. Like, you're right back to where you started. And the problem is you're right back to where you started, but you don't have room to keep improving, I guess is the problem. And so what happens? You maybe hang on for another year, and maybe you get another wild card. Maybe you don't. Maybe you miss the playoffs. You're just delaying what is the most likely outcome. I'm not saying inevitable, because shit happens, but like at some point you're going to have to face the realization of, we're either going to try and be a really good team and make people come watch the Raiders for 10 straight years, or we are just going to keep trying to hang on to keep it, good enough, and know that the bottom could fall out at any moment.
I mean,
And I think that's a tough call, right? Like I do understand how that's tough from an ownership standpoint, especially for a Raiders team that like isn't the most cash rich team in the NFL, right?
yeah, I mean there's another issue, and this was similar to what Kansas City did. We'll talk about them. The Raiders have 21 players under contract, so now with Carr it'd be 22 players under contract in 2023, right? So and that's the thing, like, so everybody's going to look and say, look, the Raiders next year have $79 million in cap space, and that is 7th best in the NFL. But they only have 21 players under contract, meaning like if you add the, and Over the Cap does a great job with effective cap space, which is basically saying, okay, let's fill the rest of that roster out with veteran minimum players, right? Then the Raiders are down to $57 million in effective cap space. Now Carr is probably going to eat into that sum, but you have 21 players under contract going into next year. That is tied for the least amount in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals. So, again, these teams that have become so top heavy and are pushing stuff towards the future, like a few things, like you either get stuck in 2 different ways. You get stuck basically having a ton of dead money, and that's what the Vikings did with Cousins, is Harrison Smith and Adam Thielen and I'm trying to think of Donnell Hunter. Like, they all push their money forward, so they're going to be on that team in their 30s, possibly not producing anything, or you just don't have anybody, and then you're going to have to actually fill your roster up. Kansas City, with 22 players under contract, they made the choice to jettison Tyreek Hill and get 12 draft picks to sort of get on their way to filling those roster spots up with cheap talent. If you look at the Raiders don't have a first-round pick this year, right? And the Raiders, the Raiders draft picks, like those guys, like they're not going to come in. I'm going to look at 2022 Las Vegas Raiders draft picks. They have a pick They don't even have a. I mean, they don't even have a pick in round 2 either. They have a pick in round. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 draft picks. One in round 3, one in round 4, one in round 5, another one in round 5, and another one in round 7. So next year they have 21 players under contract, and they have 5 draft picks, none of whom are going to be a second round pick or better, to supplement that as cheap talent. So that's part of the picture that I think people don't get here. And you can have Adams and you can have Waller and you can have Renfro and those are great. Chandler Jones is a wonderful player, but like that's not setting up to be all that great.
I tend to agree with you. And we didn't even mention Chandler Jones, which I think goes to speak to, like, it's not, these things don't happen in a vacuum. Are the Raiders the best team in the AFC South?
The Raiders would be the third place team in the NFC South, AFC South.
No. Really?
Yeah, the Colts are better than they are.
I think that's a close one. Like, man, I get that, it's obviously we like Frank Reich quite a bit. That one's close to me. That one's close. And I think the point I'm trying to make there is doing this in the AFC West is different than doing it in another division. Would you have been could you have gotten on board with what they were doing in the AFC if they were in the AFC South?
If they were in the AFC South, the NFC North, the NFC East, the NFC South, or just the NFC in general, it makes more sense, right? Because, and again, that's the cover that a team like Minnesota has in doing what they did is like, they probably are the 7th best team in that conference. So cool, knock your socks off, win 9 games, make the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. The Raiders are like, the Raiders are closer to the bottom team in that conference than they are the top. And they're the worst team in their own division. Like that's another part that where it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay. I am gonna go under 8.5. I know
it just seems like a
it's like
thing to do. Our number is 7.9 at PFF. So,
and like, I think that's a good, if you were sitting there going, I think under might be right, but it feels wrong. This is where math is wonderful. I really don't think there's a better predictor of how the league is going to fall than our simulation and the simulation that you've cultivated over time. I just like 8.5, man. Like I know you look at that team and you go, oh, yeah, they should win 9 games. I'm this division, and the sum of the parts may not be as good as you think. That's the other thing. Like Derek Carr and Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones, it may not all work out with Josh McDaniel.
I mean, look, Devontae Adams is probably the most talented receiver that Aaron Rodgers has ever worked with, but the history of players who have left Aaron Rodgers is replete with players who have sucked wherever they've gone. And not only that, replete with players who have gone to the Raiders and sucked. James Jones sucked with the Raiders. Jordy Nelson sucked with the Raiders. Greg Jennings went to Minnesota and was terrible, was not good. He wasn't horrible, but he wasn't, great with the Vikings. I'm trying to think of Randall Cobb had a somewhat efficient year with Dallas, but was not volume guy there. Like this is Devontae Adams might be the most talented receiver in football, and who knows if they're going to use him properly. I mean, Josh McDaniel wasn't exactly the why, like I think of like Brandon Lloyd, who Brandon Lloyd like led the NFL in receiving, and he went to St. Louis and played with Josh McDaniel, and then he went to New England and played with Josh McDaniel and didn't like even crack 1,000 yards. So like, when's the last time, Randy Moss is maybe the last receiver that went to New England and like got better with Josh McDaniel. So Wes Welker the same year probably. Everybody else sort of like it was Brady, and like Derek Carr is not Brady. So like this is, it's just a really tough thing. I think, for the Raiders, and it's a tough look. And again, like, I just don't know if this is what I would have done. And again, we might have to look back and look at somebody like Ryan Poles and think, wow, this guy really has some guts, because everybody else seems to have taken over teams and tried to keep the lights on when maybe the smartest thing to do was to take a year away from winning, like a year, like doing what the Bears are doing or not doing.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? This is a weird thing to remind someone of, but you know how some of those people will like they're like bulk, and I'm not well versed in this, so I'm not going to pretend I am. But they'll gain a ton of weight so that then they can go and like lose a ton of weight, and when they do, apparently like makes you look more shredded.
Yeah, you have to. It's easier to. Not in my experience, that's not the case, but like it's easier in theory to like to
so
lose
here's the
weight
thing.
down.
Maybe I'm like the Raiders because maybe that would be the pathway for me to be my best self. And I'm refusing. I wouldn't do, like, you asked me right now, I'd be like, hell no. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to spend 6 months, doing that to myself and looking like that. Like, that's not worth it to me. But maybe it should be. Maybe I'm the human version of the Raiders. That would be sad. Let's move. That was a good conversation. Let's move to let's save your Chiefs for last.
The best for last.
The best for last. Let's real quick remind everyone that right now on PFF.com we have it's the deal of the century right now. Draft 50% off an elite subscription. All of you out there listening to this podcast, you bet this is a great deal. Go get the elite subscription with all of the fantastic betting tools, player props, dashboard, best bets tool, spread, moneyline total, all that good stuff. And it's only getting better, really exciting stuff that we're going to have as a part of those models and those tools coming up. So this is a great deal. Go make it happen. Maybe you can get two. Get one for you, one for your friend. Draft 50% off a PFF Elite annual subscription. That's like $8 a freaking month. So go make it happen. Also, our good friend, Austin Gale, hosted a podcast called Hutch. It's a really cool podcast because it's with Aidan freaking Hutchinson. Jim Harbaugh's on there. Aidan's like every person that's played against or coached against Aidan Hutchinson that's worth a damn is on that podcast series. It's really, really cool. I'm really looking forward to listening to the whole thing all the way through in its final form. And I think you guys will love it based on what I've already heard. So go check that out. That's free wherever you get your podcasts. It just dropped last night. By the way, have you listened to Hutch already yet, Eric? I know it just dropped last night.
I haven't. I was busy today, but I'm excited for it. I think Austin is just the best of us, and he did. He worked so hard at things. So I'm pumped.
He even did his hair. He did his hair.
He did.
He did. Like,
it's a privilege to see that happen. But
yeah, it was impressive. The Chiefs. Let's go in reverse order here of what we did with the Raiders. And let's start with the Chiefs at plus 160. First time they haven't been minus money, greater than 50% break even to win to win to the division. Win total at 10.5. This is also what their lowest win total is it in the Andy Reid era, in the Mahomes era? Minus 115 over, minus 105 under. The Kansas Simpy Chief. What are you doing?
This is the lowest win total since Patrick Mahomes became the starter. Okay. I believe his first year, 2018, the Chiefs came into that season with an 8.5 win total. Since then, it's been 11. Last year was 12.5. They went under that. That was the first time Andy Reid's team went under a season win total during his time. Look, I think that this is a team that has sacrificed some of their ability to win the Super Bowl in 2022 for an opportunity to take advantage of the rest of the NFL in 2023 and beyond. When you look at the AFC, there are a lot of teams that have set themselves up really nicely to have a competitive year. The Chargers in their own division with Herbert on a rookie deal, a pretty damn good head coach in my opinion, and a lot of acquisitions and a middling draft pick. the Cincinnati Bengals, the reigning AFC champions, quarterback on a rookie deal, revamped offensive line, great receiving core, good defense, okay head coach. You still have the Ravens with Lamar on his rookie deal, although he's making the 5th-year option money now. Buffalo is the favorite, and I think that they should be. And yet at the same time, the Chiefs right now are 10-1. They're tied with the Rams and the Packers for the 3rd best odds in the NFL. In a year from now, Buffalo is going to be feeling the Von Miller contract. The Chargers are going to be probably having paid Justin Herbert. The Bengals are going to have been paying, Joe Burrow. And, a team like Denver is going to be feeling the Russell Wilson. The Raiders we talked about, they're going to be hurting as well. Tennessee is already paying Ryan Tannehill a ton of money. They're going to have the wrecking day with that. Indianapolis, who knows who their quarterback will be by next year. The Patriots, their roster is going to be what it is, and the Dolphins are going to have to make a choice on Tua Tagovailoa. That is where I see the Chiefs. I don't necessarily think I'll bet them to win the Super Bowl. I don't even know if I'll bet them to go over. I think what they're saying, which I think is a very good gamble, which is to say, we're underdogs this year. We're going to try to make the playoffs. And if we're in the playoffs with our quarterback and head coach, we're as good of an underdog as anybody. But coming out of it in 2023, when teams have to start to play the same game that they do with salaries and quarterbacks and stuff like that, they'll have already picked 12 players in this draft who are a year older. They will, Patrick Mahomes will have eaten a lot of money of his deal this year because they didn't restructure. Same with Chris Jones. And they'll be stronger. So I think that they're playing a long game this year, which is to say, I don't think I'd bet on them this year, but I do think their moves have made them stronger long term than they could have otherwise been.
What I think is interesting is, can you make a case that they could be stronger this year? And I don't ball sack or just whack this take, but targeting Tyreek Hill last year, and you brought up on a podcast prior how his average depth of target dropped. Interestingly, his average depth of target last year the same as Byron, the great Lord Byron Pringle. But Patrick Mahomes' turnover-worthy throw rate was greater than 3%, targeting only one receiver, one player. And that was Tyreek Hill last year. Had just barely a bigger big-time throw rate than turnover-worthy play rate when targeting Tyreek Hill. And part of me wonders if it's not one of these things where it's like addition by subtraction, but it's the mentality of how Patrick Mahomes maybe is thinking through the offense, and maybe the way that Andy Reid is calling the offense and that team of offensive coaches are scheming the offense, where they may have been so focused on teams are trying to stop Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes by playing, all of these, kind of deep coverage looks, that they were too focused on that. And you look at Patrick Mahomes' PFF grade, and, obviously PFF grade is really, it's the best metric out there and really does a great job. But, there's some areas where we're trying to improve it. But he was 13th in PFF grade last year.
Barely top 10 in WAR, despite playing a whole playoff season, except for the Super Bowl.
So I'm still expecting him. I'm expecting Mahomes to be better next year. And I'm expecting that offense to be more efficient next year. And, Josh Allen and the Bills are the team that, that they need to beat. They're not in that division, and as much as it's sexy to talk about the Chargers and the Broncos, there are still, there are question marks with all those teams. So I do agree with you that it sets them up better to win, in the future. And I think that's really smart, but I'm not sure it actually hurts them right now. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think you're right. I mean, here's the thing. The Patrick Mahomes' average depth of target has gone down basically 2 yards since his first year as a starter. It went down a full yard last year. His big-time throw rate in 2020 was higher than it was in 2019 when they won the Super Bowl, and it got cut in half last year. his average depth of target was the same as Tua Tagovailoa last year. I've been doing some stuff with Tage Seth. One of the things I was working on while I was late is we've been measuring linebacker movement, and the thing that we're trying to measure is sort of this trade-off between linebackers that bite on play action and linebackers that flow well in the run game. And we looked at opposing offenses, and the Chiefs' offense makes linebackers bite on play action the least, and it makes linebackers flow on actual run plays the least. Linebackers are just sitting in gaps, waiting for the Chiefs to do something, like waiting for the Chiefs to try to throw that stuff to Tyreek Hill. And then in addition to that, our Lao Shui Hui had the stuff with the two high safeties. And again, after you adjust for everything, most teams are within a certain thin box of how many box players there are. But the Chiefs, even after you adjust for down and distance and tendencies and stuff, teams run too high way more against the Chiefs than expected. So these defenses are adjusting. Now, I agree. Patrick Mahomes' yards per pass attempt have gone down every single year since his first year. His PFF grade has basically gone, and WAR per game started has gone down every single year since he's been a Chief. Now, it's not egregious. He's still a 3.27 WAR player, even in a year where he wasn't particularly great last year, in my opinion. But this team was, pretty high in expected points added. Andy Reid, during the course of the season, figured the thing out, right? To the point where against the NFL's number one defense, the Chiefs put up 40 points, against Buffalo. Now, the question becomes, if you're the Chiefs, do you want to need to every single year scratch and claw and grind to get 2% better because defenses are taking away the one guy that everybody thinks is singular on your team? Or do you want to sort of change, right? And know a priori that you want to change and come into the season where you're the one that defenses have to adjust to, as opposed to you adjusting to everybody's defense that's engineered to stop your identity. Make your identity change and, make defenses adjust to you. Because I guarantee you that on the fly, the defensive coaches of the NFL will not be able to adjust as quickly as Andy Reid can adjust. But if Andy Reid stays the same, as he has basically for the whole Mahomes era, then defenses can catch up and did catch up to him, right? That offense was not humming in the beginning of the year. And so I sort of agree with you there. Now, again, it's ball sack or just whack to say, look, they're a better team now without Tyreek Hill. I don't agree with that, but I think long term, their outs are more, especially with the draft now, you have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks. You have a chance now. You add a wide receiver to the mix. Look for a right tackle to replace Mitchell Schwartz finally. Obviously get the defense, put some depth on that defense. And I think you're going to be better long term. Again, they had 22 players under contract. And if Tyreek Hill would have signed like a Devontae Adams-like deal, they would have basically had no effective cap space next year. So this was a good move for them to make to be a long-term contender with Mahomes. And all reports suggest that Mahomes is okay with it.
It is ball sack or just whack to say it in that way. And I wanted to be careful there because we don't have the counterfactual. We don't know how they would have been this year with Tyreek Hill, right? I'd be sitting here, if they had Tyreek Hill, I'd be sitting here telling you that Patrick Mahomes is going to go freaking off this year because they're going to spend all off season instead of thinking about how I got the shit kicked out of me because my left tackle and right tackle couldn't block. And that's why we didn't win the Super Bowl. This year they're sitting there going, fuck. The reason we didn't win the Super Bowl is because we weren't good enough, offensively, Patrick Mahomes, me, Tyreek Hill. So that's ridiculous. I think what I'm trying to say is they're going to improve, I believe, off of last year's performance, even though they put themselves in a position to succeed more, have a higher chance of success and Super Bowl contention in the future, right? Which is really kind of, having your cake and eating it too. Now, here's the question.
And I think that's the whole thing where people will say, people will pretend that you have no choice but to do these things. But the fact of the matter is, when you have a Derek Carr, when you have a Kirk Cousins, when you have a Ryan Tannehill, when you have, some of these sort of middling quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield would have been the same way. The opportunity cost of having that quarterback is yes, the likelihood that you draft somebody and he freaking stinks. but that B is drafting somebody like Patrick Mahomes, who gives you this multifaceted ability to contend, right? The Chiefs the Chiefs are a far better bet to win the Super Bowl than all but like 2 teams this year, 3 teams, right? But at the same time, we're talking about them having to luck into winning the Super Bowl, right? All these other teams that are sort of like, settling for mediocre quarterback play, not mediocre, but mediocre wins above replacement per dollar spent. That's all I'll talk about it. They're looking for luck just to get into the same place that the Chiefs are in a down year for them, right? And so that's the issue, I think, when we were all like, hey, go back into the draft, try to find a Justin Herbert, try to find a Joe Burrow, because those guys give you multifaceted ways to compete, right? Because, when Mahomes signed this contract, there were going to be years where he renegotiated or they converted money and they had space. And then years like this where they throttle back and he's taking the full hit, right? And they're taking a step back roster-wise, but he's still good enough to give them a chance. And I think that's where, like, that elite quarterback, people will say, oh, it's not worth it. It's not. To me, man, like that's why it's worth it.
Okay. One word: over or under 10.5. Over -115, under -105.
I think 11.5 is probably high. If I had, is it 10.5?
It's 10.5. Sorry, I said 10.5. If you heard 11, that was.
Yeah, I would go over 10.5. I mean, I think this is getting like. Do you think the Chiefs are a 10-17?
That's why I'm going. That's why I'm going over.
Our numbers are more like 10.9, 11, I think, right now. We'd have to rerun them. We haven't run them in a while, but there haven't been any big moves in the NFL. So we would say over. Overs are generally sucker plays, but I think in this case, like, it's a little bit absurd, isn't it?
I think so, man. I think so. This division is just hard. This division is absolutely hard. But the thing, and we'll do like a little Broncos Chargers kind of like compare and contrast here. The thing is, both those teams have question marks, and even though the Chiefs do as well, like you can't just ignore those others. Speaking of question marks, don't let your body hair be a question mark. Go to Manscaped. Do you like that? Yeah.
It's pro.
Go to manscaped.com, use promo code PFF, get 20% off and free shipping on the Performance Package 4.0. You want to be sleek, you want to be smooth, you want to run a sub 4.3, you want to do all those things on the field that make people turn their head and go, wow, that's impressive. And to do that, the Performance Package 4.0 is the secret that you need. You get the Lawnmower 4.0, which we both extol the virtues of time and time again, because it has a long battery life, has a light, doesn't cut you. The Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer, plus a ton of other stuff to keep your skin moisturized and looking great this whole summer through. So go to manscaped.com, promo code PFF, 20% off plus free shipping. All right. We have got two, I guess this is probably the correct way to say it. The two, in your words, most hipster teams in the entire NFL. And it's the Broncos and the Chargers. Everyone is really excited about both these teams. And they have the same odds to win the division. Chargers win total is 10, -120, +100 on our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. And the Denver Broncos, if I can find them here on the list, are 10, -125 over, +105 under. So which one of these teams has the better chance of going over and of winning the division?
Yeah, I mean, I have some San Diego. I'm going to call them San Diego until they make the playoffs again. San Diego 4-1 to win the division and 3.5 to 1 to win the division. Shame works, and now they're down to +250. I think +250 is the right number. I think the Broncos throttling back from +200 to +250 makes sense. I think now the Chargers are probably too expensive. I would, if anything, go under 10, just for the LOLs. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing with Denver. Denver's schedule is easier. Denver also has, I think, a really high ceiling. And here's why. I think, when you look at Russell Wilson has some of the characteristics that Aaron Rodgers had before Matt LaFleur got a hold of him, as far as, needing structure, having, declined a little bit, although he kind of finished the year okay. Wilson still had 26 big. I mean, what an underrated part of the season was, prior to getting injured, Russell Wilson was having a great individual season. The wins, like, he didn't have a turnover-worthy play in the first 5 games of the year, right before he got injured, and then he came back. He had a 3 turnover-worthy play game. He, did not have, it was not good when he came back. But, when you look at time to throw, 2.78 last year was sort of like a low watermark for him. Prior, it was like 3.03, 2.95, 2.98, 3.12. I think Wilson has receivers who can get open. I think he has an offensive line that's good enough. And I think Javonte Williams is actually a better running back than Aaron Jones. So, you look at that offense and you can see some Green Bay elements to it. And if Wilson buys in and throws the ball like really well underneath and quickly, then that offense, I think, is going to be very, very good. Couple that with the defense that has some good playmakers, Randy Gregory coming over from Dallas, Patrick Surtain, already being a great corner. Like, they're a team that I think is probably at plus 250, maybe a value, and over 10, maybe a value. I think Wilson's going to be unlocked in this offense.
I can't disagree with any of that. I can't disagree with any of that. And the Chargers are the Chargers. That's the really tough thing for me here. If this weren't the Chargers, right, it would be so easy. I'd be like, you know what? Chargers are the more talented team. Like, the Chargers are more talented than the Chiefs are. Like, I don't think there's any denying that. Like, you go through the positions, like, they have a studly team. I mean, they have, I guess they don't quite have an Aaron Donald. They don't quite have a Jalen Ramsey, but like, they've got some damn close guys there, man. I mean, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, and Justin Herbert is, I mean, what, per dollar spent, you're getting more out of him than you are Mahomes, right? Per dollar? There's no dollar, there's no doubting that, right?
Well, and again, like, I think a lot of projection on Mahomes. I think this is going to be a year where Mahomes is kind of relearning how to play quarterback a little bit, whereas Wilson, again, like, the biggest question for Russell Wilson is whether the Seattle Seahawks had a point, right? Like, whether Seattle was right in throttling him back and playing him, with the first half of the 2020 season notwithstanding, treating him like he was a Kirk Cousins type of player. My guess, given every other one of Seattle's decisions, is no. Like, this, it was just, they were just being stupid. But, that is, it's not clear necessarily that is, that's the uncertainty with Wilson is, the one time we saw him, getting to cook, he was amazing. But he made mistakes. He threw some interceptions. And that caused Seattle to throttle back. Was Seattle wrong? My money's on yes. That Seattle didn't do enough to help Russell Wilson. Also, but there are smart people, Justice Mosqueda, I think, being one of them, and some people who said no. There's Seth Galina, I think, and Deontay, when we had the Too High podcast, we're basically saying, like, look, there's some flaws in Russell Wilson's game that are real, and those are that gives me a little hesitancy. But man, I would, I just don't necessarily think that the Seattle Seahawks did a good job of managing him.
Well, and you think their scheme was like, are you saying they're going, oh yeah, he screwed up a really good scheme? Like, because your point there on the Hackett Packers thing is like, he doesn't have to be Matt LaFleur. And Russ Wilson doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers for this to take a step in the right direction, right? Which is, I think, your point. Here's where I'm at, okay? Here's how I can separate it. It's scheme that I have, like, if we're doing, like, who has the edge here? Scheme, the Broncos. And that's the thing that gives me the biggest like, red flag. Because on the other side, you've got, quarterback. Like I'll take Herbert. He's also way more valuable from $1 per wins above replacement.
Herbert's like a top 3 quarterback in the NFL in WAR. Even if you don't adjust for price, and then
right.
after you
And I'm
adjust for
saying
price, it's fucking unreal.
he was so good last year. And then the next thing is like continuity. Like Chargers have better continuity. They don't really have a home field advantage. That does, hurt a little bit. So it's like my heart is with the Chargers, but there's this thing in my head that's like, man, a really good scheme with that quarterback. There's like, you're asking, you need like maybe less of a Herculean performance from the quarterback. And so if Justin Herbert is like anything but a top 3 guy next year, then it's a problem. So like, I guess gun to my head, I will go with Brandon Staley, Justin Herbert, and the Chargers. But I think this is one of the most fun debates out there, is like both these teams going all in. Both have these interesting like ways of projecting forward into a Super Bowl team. And you kind of just got to pick one that you feel the most good about. Let me ask you this from a math perspective, like, should we be more confident in like the quarterback's performance above the scheme, or more confident in like a scheme that we believe will take a average performance from a good quarterback and elevate it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think on one end the Chargers are going to give their team the best chance to win with 4th downs and stuff. On the other end, and again, like the last time that Nathaniel Hackett called plays, he was the offensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So like we don't have uniform success for him, but the Green Bay, Matt LaFleur ran a very good ship in Green Bay. I thought that they went for the right 4th downs. Now, question, and I got, people on Twitter were kind of nasty about this, but like, Matt LaFleur gave up a lot of timeouts. Is that a factor of Rodgers or LaFleur? Like that was the one analytical leak in LaFleur's game. I think that it's going to be, I think it's literally a coin flip between these two. And, we could get to the end of the year and both of these teams are at 9 wins because they split. And, that would be interesting. And the Raiders, like we dragged the Raiders for the first half of the part, but like if the Raiders split with both of these teams like they did last year, then, or I think maybe the Raiders even swept the Broncos, I can't remember. Then this division, maybe unders are the right play. Now, both of these, I believe they get the AFC South, if I'm not mistaken. So, there might be something associated with, betting the over. Let me look quickly here. They do get the AFC South. So, on one side of my mouth, they're all going to beat each other up. On the other side of my mouth, they're playing the NFC West, which is going to be tough, and the AFC South, which can be easy. So maybe it still goes under because for all these teams because of them beating each other up type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So who are you riding with?
I'm going to go with so I have bets on the Chargers, but there are much better prices. I'm going to go with the Broncos now at their current price.
Okay. So this is fun because I think neither of us disagree with each other, like point by point, but like the tiniest of razor's edges has us on the other side of one another, which I think is fun. Maybe this should be a steak dinner bet. Who knows?
Yeah. So you want to take the Chargers? Your Los Angeles Chargers?
Yeah, my Los Angeles Chargers.
And I've never been to Denver.
How about this? I've got a good one for you. This is way better than some bullshit steak dinner. The loser has to buy a ticket to a game for that, so like if you win, I've got to get us like Chargers tickets to go watch like a Chargers game. And if I win, you've got to buy us Denver tickets, or vice versa. If I win, you buy us
versa,
Chargers tickets, and I buy Denver.
I tried to get you Niners Bengals tickets, and you categorically didn't want them. So I like this. I like this bet for that reason.
The benefit here is that we get a trip out of it. The reason I was anti that was like, I'm just gonna walk. Anyways, this is good. I like where our bets are progressing. We have some other really good stuff that I think we can save for an Easter treat on Sunday. And that will make everyone's Easter a little bit better. We will see you guys on Sunday afternoon at some point. I can neither confirm nor deny that Eric will be fresh off an Easter egg hunt with his daughters, but I look forward to hearing those stories. Is that what you guys do? Like, what do you? I've forgotten at this point.
Yeah, I think we're going to be on the farm somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know, like the Easter egg hunt will be, I don't know. Remember last year during Easter, we had Sage Rosenfels on and he talked about the Justin Fields thing.
Yeah.
I feel like this year it's going to be a lot less festive. But yeah, it'll probably be an Easter egg hunt. It'll probably be great stories from the sermon on the mount. On the mount. It'll be, Easter will be fun. And by the way, by Sunday, the first 4 USFL games will have been played. A privilege for all of us.
If you did not listen to the last podcast, we talked about the USFL, and I've heard that if you at Eric on Twitter, he will more than happily point you in the direction of these tweets talking about the USFL. I'm looking forward to no context USFL tweets from Eric Eager this weekend. It'll be quite a delight. That was our podcast. We love you all. Thanks for hanging out. Peace.